その時は何の前触れもなく訪れるかもしれない。日本の象徴富士山が噴火して火山灰が東京に降ると、さまざまな被害や影響が予想されます。
An eruption you could consider to be inevitable, the hazard. We can't really do much to stop the volcano from erupting. So the only way to reduce the risk from an eruption is to sort of try and improve the resilience of people around that volcano, or to reduce the things that are exposed to the volcano. Obviously, you can't just tell everyone in Tokyo and on the flanks of Fuji to uproot their lives and not live there. So we can't do much to change the exposure, the things that are around the volcano. So we have to focus on trying to improve the resilience of people around the volcano. And one of the best ways to do that is through education. So this video, although it may seem alarmist, it's kind of trying to reproduce the worst case scenario, prepare for the worst, hope for the best sort of thing. So educating people on what the worst possible scenario is, I think, is a fairly good measure to take in terms of trying to improve preparedness. The last eruption from Fuji was in 1707. We don't have any photo or video footage. We don't have any lived memory of that eruption. We only have a painting, for example. So we can't use specifics from Fuji to educate people about Fuji. You could show them pictures of Mount Pinatubo or Mount St. Helens, but it's hard for them to transplant that knowledge from one volcano to another. So merging that with some AI and giving them this sort of pseudo-realistic depiction of what can actually happen from Fuji in Tokyo, I think is a fairly good use of technology. Fuji is considered an active volcano if you speak to any sorts of geologists, but its current sort of hazard level is at the lowest. It's level 1, and that's decided by the Japanese Meteorological Agency.
風向き、噴火規模、天候などの条件によっては、1、2時間で東京に火山灰が降り始める可能性があります。
Mount Fuji's had a lot of different sort of eruption styles in the past. Some of them are quite small scale, and some of them are much larger scale. So this video, I think, is very much based on the larger scale, worst case scenario type of eruption.
水道は河川などに火山灰が降ると水質が悪化し、降灰の影響が大きい浄水場では水質基準超過のリスクがあります。下水道は火山灰が混入すると詰まったり逆流する恐れがあります。
The first thing we probably see is a cloud of gas and ash erupted from the vent of the volcano, and that would rise up to 10, 20, maybe even 30 kilometers high. And then depending on the wind direction, that would push the ash into other parts of Japan. And in particular sort of scenario, you could have the wind blowing towards Tokyo, and that would drag the ash over towards Tokyo. You might also get more localized effects closer to the volcano. There might be pyroclastic flows or lahars as well.
What would happen if there were a major eruption of Mount Fuji? Let's take a look at the volcanic phenomena that may occur in the event of a major eruption.
The ash falling in Tokyo could have a number of different effects. It can close airspace, as we've witnessed before in the past in Europe and in other parts of the world. Japan's obviously also very reliant on a very good train network, so an accumulation of ash along the rail networks would probably halt their sort of transport that way. Ash is basically ground up pieces of volcanic rock that have been blasted apart in the explosion. It's very sharp and jagged. It's essentially a glass. So it can be very disruptive to ears, nose, and throats, particularly for anything or anyone with sort of asthma or other respiratory illnesses. If you get really big buildups of ash, then you can start to influence the sort of structural integrity of buildings. And that's especially the case if it's raining as the ash is being sort of deposited as well. It can form a very sort of thick, sludgy, and potentially heavy deposit on the top of roofs, and if the roofs aren't quite strong enough, then they can collapse.
わからない富士山噴火による火山灰の被害から、あなたや大切な人を守るために降灰に対する正しい知識を身につけ、日頃から対策をすることが重要です。
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.